Welcome to Tank's podcast, where you get to hear people's past experiences and by getting to know what made us into who we are as a person. Now back to my next episode of Tank's podcast. Welcome back to Tank's podcast. I would like to welcome Dylan to the show. Welcome to the show, Dylan. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing well myself. If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
That's a good one. I would have to say probably George Washington, honestly, because it's just really interesting to me how he, as a president, with having no political experience, came in and did everything that he did. He resigned after 8 years, which really set precedent, and it would just be really interesting to see his thoughts on everything that happens now.
Wow. How do you feel about the current situation between Ukraine and Russia?
I feel for it, I do, and it's really sad, but at the same time, I don't think that America should be sending our people to go die for it. I mean, I don't like war. I consider myself a pacifist, but I don't think that we should be sending our people over there to deal with it.
What do you hope about the future of America?
Honestly, I hope for more unity. I feel like we're super divided in years past, and I don't know if unity is necessarily something we can get anymore. Maybe we're on a path that's just going to be a downward spiral, but I would hope that we can find more unity in the years to come.
What are the most important lessons you've learned in life?
I'd say the biggest one is probably that you're not always going to win, but you have to keep going either way, because persevering through loss is a skill that a lot of people don't have. So if you can do that, then that will help you win when other people don't.
If you were going to write a book, what would it be about?
That's a good one. I'm not good at writing. Probably just observational, honestly, just about what I see in the world today and what I think we could be doing better.
That's good to know. What are 3 movies you would recommend to my audience and why?
It's another good one. I would recommend The Princess Bride. A lot of people don't like that one, but it is objectively a good movie. Mr. Harvey thinks it's dumb, but that's okay. V for Vendetta is another good one. If you watch it, you'll probably see a lot of parallels between that and what we see in the world today. And a third one would probably be Talladega Nights, because it's a good movie.
What was the last thing you Googled before this interview?
Getting me in trouble here. Let's see. What did I Google? I Googled the recipe for pierogi.
Do you mind explaining what that is exactly?
It's a Russian soup. It's got a bunch of different stuff in it. I didn't read the article too much, so I couldn't make it offhand.
What was your favorite memory from last year?
The JV track meet at the Grand Junction Stadium was really fun. I don't remember why, but it was just super nostalgic for me, and just hanging out with the boys, and it was really fun when Lorenzo left the meet and went to Papa John's and came back with a whole pizza for himself.
What experiences shaped your lifestyle?
Running track in high school has definitely been one of the big ones, because it has taught me a lot about myself and a lot of the people that I go to school with and hang out with on a regular basis. That's one of the big ones. Just the high school experience as a whole has really done that. And that's really it. I mean, of course, there have been others, but I'd say that my life has certainly changed a lot since I've come into high school.
What have you experienced throughout the course of your 4 years in high school? Because I'm sure that you've learned quite a ton ever since you first went into Coleridge.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I already talked about track and just how that and really playing any sport will really build your sense of teamwork and camaraderie, and it'll teach you a lot about yourself, what type of person you are, but also just dealing with difficult schoolwork because, truth be told, I never had trouble in school, and I still don't have trouble in school per se, but like school was never hard for me before I came into high school. And so coming into high school was, it was kind of a rude awakening for me in a way because it was the first time where I actually had to try. And so that was something that really taught me a lot, specifically that even if things are easy, you're going to have to try at some point, because if you don't try, there's going to come a time where you have to, and you'll be super underprepared for it.
What are you looking forward for graduation? Of course, the whole point is to finally get out of high school, but what are you looking forward to the ceremony?
Just, I mean, like you said, being done with it is huge, man, because high school is rough, but just being able to have that under my belt and be able to say I graduated high school, which doesn't seem like a lot since most of us are going to do it, but there are a lot of people who can't say that, and so even having a high school diploma means like, hey, you know, whatever happens next, at least I did this.
What made you into who you are as a person?
I would say more than anything, it has been moving out here to Silt. I lived in Denver until I was about 13, and I moved out here from the big city into this little rural town, having no idea what it was like out here. And when I first got out here, I was kind of baffled at how small it was and how slowly things moved. But as I have gotten more accustomed to it out here from the time that I lived here, this place has really changed my life in a really big and impactful way, and I'm really grateful for that.
My bonus question is, what decade do you think is most interesting than the other? The 1970s or the 1980s, and explain why.
Honestly, I would have to say the 70s probably would have been more interesting. Because, I mean, you know, disco music was a huge thing. And it was just, it was a strange time. I mean, toward the end of the 70s, things kind of fell apart a little bit, and like, you know, gas went up a lot, which, you know, we're seeing that now. But it was a really interesting time in American history, and a time when things were actually like pretty calm, just politically and socially and culturally. A time when we were really unified, which is something that we can't really imagine now. What do you think your defining experiences in high school were?
So, personally for me, I think I've grown a lot since graduating from high school last year, and before then, I actually went to Glenwood for most of my life, you know? So it wasn't common for me to go into new schools and everything because I've been into some schools for a couple months or so. Going into a new school for the entirety of my school career, I guess you could say. When I first came into Coleridge back in my freshman year, I just didn't think I would make friends with people I've never even met before. And the fact that I had to endure so many challenges within myself, that's just like a learning curve for me, if you will. And for me to being able to make friends from different schools, it just makes me feel that wherever you go to, then you can try to make friends, but hopefully it all works out in the end.
Yeah, man, absolutely. That's a good one.
Any other questions for me before I end this interview?
No, I think I learned a lot about you.
That concludes this interview, and I would like to thank you, Dylan, for being on the show and for taking some of your time to talk with me. Again, I'd just like to thank you for being on the show, and you have yourself a good rest of your day.
Yeah, man, thank you for having me. You do the same.
Thanks, man.